And lo and behold, we've got Marwah Rizqy on with us on the line. Madame Rizqy, welcome back to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about your bill. I am very much in favor, but I've been in favor for a long time. I've been pining for action on this, banning supervised drug consumption sites near schools and daycares. Why is this the right thing to do?
Well, last year in fall, many parents contacted me because of Maison Benoît Larbre that was announced to be open 80 meters door to door from the school Victor Rousseau. People were very anxious, not only the parents, but I have to say even the school. The member of the school were like, what the heck is going on? We are an elementary school and they're going to open supervised consumption drug next door, literally next door. We are not equipped. And a lot of people said, we didn't know. We were actually in shock. So I raised the question in October at the question period, and Lionel Karma just replied to me, we have to vivre ensemble, and we're going to save life. I'm like, we all agree that it's important to save life, but we have to keep in mind that it's impossible to ask young kids to understand the situation when someone's going to be highly intoxicated, and also that maybe if we learn from the past, the kid will be concentrated with syringe and also pills that might be misplaced by the people who are highly intoxicated. And I don't feel like the kid has to be facing this. So Monsieur Karma at that time didn't believe in that, so he decided to go on and to open the facility. Mm-hmm. And as soon as it opened, what we all knew will happen happened. So we saw adults highly intoxicated. We saw fights. We saw also sexual intercourse in front of young kids. And I was just in shock and in disbelief that I actually have to write a bill. And I have to say, I wrote this bill when I was out of the National Assembly, when I was in bed rest for my pregnancy. And I finished it after I gave birth, I finished the bill. Mm-hmm. And when in June, we introduced a motion, with the PQ introduced a motion, and we fully supported that motion to ban every supervised consumption services near daycare and school. The CAC said no. Uh-huh. So it took many reporters on site with videos showing the aggressivity, all the drugs that we also saw on the street and even on the schoolyard. So finally, Mr. Legault, on August 26th, said, of course, this is not okay. We have to find another place. We need to move this facility because we cannot ask the kids to be confronting all these people so highly intoxicated.
But what do you say to someone who says this, that, this lacks empathy? You are not thinking of the drug user that is going, they're the victim here. You're not thinking of them. You are lacking empathy to a group that needs more support, not less, and not to be stigmatized out of areas.
My job as a legislator is to make sure that everyone is safe. And for me, I do understand that we have to find sites. But my priority is to make sure that kids, and as a mother, I can tell you one thing, 90% of my job right now with my young kid who's only 2 years old is to say, do not put this in depth in your mouth. He doesn't have the capacity to understand that this is dangerous. So this is why I'm putting that bill, because for me this is common sense, but for some people it's not common sense. So unfortunately we have to introduce a bill. So it's not a question of empathy. I feel like all the Americans, we do have empathy, but common sense is to make a decision, a very important decision, deciding for the greater good of the young kids. Mm-hmm. Should we move those facilities just 150 meters away from school and daycare in Montreal and 250 meters outside of Montreal? The answer is yes. We've done it for the weed law, the loi sur le cannabis. And guess what? We do have SQDC in Montreal. We're not allowed to have any SQDC close to school and close to daycare. So how come I cannot sell any weed next to a school or next to a daycare, but I can let people having very strong drugs next to the schools. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
And the Ontario decided to adopt the law. They did it during the summer of 2024. I don't think that the Ontarian MNA don't have any empathy. I think they have the same common sense. And when I look to the stats, the numbers of aggression next to consumption service are 113% higher than anywhere else. So why would I put the young kids at risk?
So, but here's the thing, right? So you have this bill. Okay, it'll put it away from the schools. But then if you want to keep these centers in the same neighborhoods, it stays in St. Henry, let's say. Well, you put it anywhere else, and it's right next to where people live, apartments, condos, homes, and everywhere these sites are, if it's downtown, the lives for residents nearby end up being miserable. We don't see any effect in that, it's actually solving the problem of drug abuse. Isn't the actual problem these supervised drug consumption sites to begin with, not the location? Because if it's not next to the school, it's going to be next to the condo where people who pay taxes and have children live.
But usually, Elias, when you have a neighborhood, you're going to have a daycare, you're going to have a school. That's how it works. Usually we're going to plan a daycare, we're going to plan also a school. Right now, the problem that I have, the location, they decide to put it next to a school. Let me circle back to what happened to Trois-Rivières back in 2023. They decided to put next to the daycare a center of consumption service. And what happened is simple. People are highly intoxicated. And the DJ of that CPA, she said, every single day we're finding pills. It's been 2 years. And now not only people are yelling, but you have to keep in mind that CPA is for young Aboriginal kids, and they have racist words towards the young kids. So I think the location does matter. Mm-hmm. And we had the thinking when we introduced the bill of La Loi sur le cannabis. It did work. We have SQDC, but with a good distance with schools and daycare. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, it's not the responsibility of the schools and the daycare
sure.
to deal with people who are highly intoxicated.
But of course,
enough on their yard.
And I just want to make, there's a big difference between cannabis users and users of hard drugs, right? The huge, massive difference, right? Massive difference. So let me just ask you this. But do you think, forget about where they're located, do you think these quote-unquote harm reduction sites are actually a good thing? That there is proof and evidence from across the country, for West Coast, Vancouver, East Coast, anywhere that we find them. Do you think there's evidence that these places actually work? As long as they're not near schools, they're actually working?
I'm actually reading a study of the NSPQ in the one of Health Canada. And it's the study, I'm not through with it, so I won't comment about the impact. And I have to say, I am not a scientist on that, so that I will feel like I'm like, on this case, like I don't have the capacity and the ability to, and usually I don't like to speak when I didn't finish a study, and I have two on my table right now about yes or no, does it work or not? I cannot answer that.
But if it did work, you wouldn't want to ban them from schools, would you? Like if it did work, wouldn't you say put them next to every school? I mean, honestly, if they did work, why aren't, right? I mean, that to me is what doesn't make sense here, right? Either that we should have them or we shouldn't. And that's where I scratch my head, because if they worked, we'd be like, oh my God, everything got better since we put them in the site. Keep them, let's have them make sure they're near schools.
Well, honestly, Elias, my job, is to make sure that the location next to the school and daycare are protected. After that, if people want to have the other discussion about if yes, it works or it doesn't work, that will be like another discussion, but that will be out of my jurisdiction, even my capacity. I feel like it's more like a question for a doctor from the NSPQ and the public health to answer that question. But I believe that, yes, there are people who are consumption drugs, and we have to make sure that we can help them. And this is something that André Fortin, who's the spokesperson, the critic for health, but also Elizabeth Pratt, who's the critic for mental issues and also drugs abuse. I feel like this is like a question that everyone should think about. But I'm pretty sure that tomorrow there will still have people who are consumption drug, but we need to help them. And there's one more thing, if I may add. Here, the government of Quebec are always putting this on the shoulders of the city, but they don't have the financial means to address all those issues. So I feel like not only Mr. Trudeau, but Mr. Legault, they need to have a better view of what's going on in Quebec and Canada in terms of drugs. Because before moving in the West Island and the riding of my husband, we used to live in the old Montreal. And within 5 years, I saw major shifts with people who were using drugs. And what they are on the street are much more harder on the people. Yeah. But
well, that's why I moved.
The city and the people, the workers, like the workers with the people highly intoxicated, they don't have all the means to address those issues. So we need like the government to make sure that they do understand that the drugs on the streets are nothing compared to the weed selling by the CQDC.
Madame Rizqy, Marwah, listen, I know you got to get back to caucus. You've got a busy day ahead of you.
Actually, I have to go back to the question period.
The question period. There you go. Get back to question period. Thanks so much for jumping on with us. I appreciate it.
Thanks to you. Bye-bye.
That's Liberal MNA, Marwah Rizqy. Of course, she's behind that bill to ban supervised drug consumption sites near schools and daycares.